I didn't even mean to look. I was standing in our hallway with my jacket half on, one shoe on, and one sock sliding on the hardwood, and she was in the kitchen laughing at something on her phone like the world was soft and harmless. "Babe," she called out without turning around. "Can you grab my tote? I left it in your car." Her voice had that bright, casual bounce it always gets when she's in a good mood, and for a second I almost answered like normal. Then I opened the center console to find her tote, and my fingers hit a stack of folded paper, thicker than a receipt, glossy in a way that made my stomach tighten before my brain even caught up. It was one of those moments where you feel your body react first. My mouth went dry, so fast my tongue stuck to the roof of it. I unfolded the paper with my thumb, and the print was too clean, too official. Hotel, letterhead at the top. A confirmation number. Dates. 2 guests. Her name spelled correctly, which sounds stupid, but that's what made it real. Under payment, there was a card ending in 4 digits I recognized because I'd watched her type it into a grocery delivery app last week while we argued about whether we needed paper towels. My hand started shaking, not dramatic shaking, just a small tremor like my nerves couldn't decide whether to fight or run. From inside the house, she laughed again, and the sound hit me like a shove. I walked back in with the papers still open in my hand. The kitchen light was on, warm and normal, and she was leaning against the counter in sweatpants, hair in a messy bun, scrolling. I stood there for a beat and waited for her to look up, like maybe if she saw my face she'd explain before I had to speak. But she didn't. She kept smiling at her screen, shoulders relaxed, like we were still in the version of our life where nothing rotten could be hidden in the glove box. "Where did you go?" she asked, finally looking up. Her eyes flicked to the papers, then to my face. The smile stayed for half a second too long, like it hadn't received the new information yet. "What is this?" My voice sounded wrong, like it belonged to someone else. I held the receipts out without stepping closer, like I didn't want whatever was on them to touch me. Her expression changed in a way I can only describe as quick math. It wasn't instant panic. It wasn't confusion. It was calculation. Like watching someone try to solve a problem before it becomes a disaster. She blinked once, slow, and then she put the phone down face first on the counter. "Why were you in my bag?" she said, and it was such a weird, sharp detour that I almost laughed. My hand tightened on the paper until it creased. "It was in the car," I said. "You asked me to get your tote." "I didn't," she started, then stopped, then sighed like I'd disappointed her. Okay, let me see. I didn't hand it to her." I don't know why that mattered, but in that moment it felt like if I let her take it, she'd rewrite it just by touching it. "Hotel receipts," I said. 2 guests. Your name." Her eyes dropped to the dates. I watched her pupils move left to right. Her throat bobbed when she swallowed. "It's not what you think," she said automatically, like she'd rehearsed it for a different argument. I felt this heavy, buzzing pressure in my ears. "What do I think?" I asked. "Tell me what I think." She exhaled, the kind of controlled breath people take right before they try to steer something. "It was for work." A hotel. For work. "There was a conference," she said too fast. "I told you about it. You told me about a meeting at your office. You didn't tell me you were booking rooms." "It was last minute," she insisted. Her cheeks were flushing now, but her posture stayed weirdly composed. It wasn't a big deal. I looked down again. The dates were Saturday and Sunday. Her work conference was supposedly on a Tuesday. My brain felt like it was trying to walk through mud. "This is a weekend," I said, tapping the paper. The paper rattled because my hand wouldn't stop shaking. "And it says 2 guests." She lifted her chin slightly. "It doesn't mean anything. Sometimes hotels automatically don't," I said, and the word came out harsher than I meant it to. I saw her flinch. Not because she was afraid, but because she didn't like being interrupted. "Just don't." The 3rd paragraph is supposed to be where I zoom out and give context. So here it is, but even now it feels like I'm describing someone else's life. "We've been together 4 years. Engaged for 8 months. Wedding planned for this fall. Deposits down. Seating chart started. We have a shared Google Drive folder called Forever, which is embarrassing to admit, but it's true. Her name is Marin." She's the person who labels pantry jars and remembers her coworkers' birthdays and cries at animal rescue videos. I'm the person who handles the bills and makes sure the cars get serviced and fixes the leaky faucet without making a big show of it. We've always been the solid couple to everyone else. The ones who host game nights, the ones who take cute photos on hikes, the ones whose families already talk like we're married. And if I'm honest, lately there's been a thin film of distance between us. Nothing dramatic, just little absences. She'd be on her phone more. She'd take calls in the hallway. She'd say she was tired and go to bed early. I told myself it was wedding stress. I told myself we were adults, and adults have stretches where they're tired and distracted. I told myself solid means not spiraling at every weird vibe. And now I'm standing in my kitchen, holding hotel receipts like a clueless stereotype. There's also this guy. Of course there is. His name is Evan. I know his name because she said it 100 times in the same tone you'd say the mailman. Evan from marketing. Evan who helped her with a presentation. Evan who's so funny. Evan who texts in the group chat. Evan who is, according to her, just a friend. I met him once at a work happy hour. He shook my hand a little too firmly and called her Mare, like he had a claim on shortening her name. I noticed it, and then I convinced myself I was being insecure because I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to be the fiancé who sees a threat in every coworker with decent teeth. Back in the kitchen, she leaned forward with her palms flat on the counter like she was grounding herself. "Can we talk about this calmly?" she said. That sentence did something ugly to me. Like she was asking for calm the way someone asks for a favor. Like calm was something I owed her. I heard myself laugh once, but it wasn't funny. "I am calm," I said, and the scary part was I meant it. I felt hollow. Calm was what my body did when it didn't know what else to do. She reached for the receipts again, slower this time, like she was approaching a skittish animal. "Those are old," she said. "It was before." "Before what?" I cut in. "Before you said yes? Before you let me put a ring on your finger? Before my mom booked flights for the wedding?" Her eyes flashed. "Don't bring your mom into this." I swallowed, and it felt like trying to swallow a stone. "Whose room was it?" I asked. "Who was the second guest?" Her mouth opened, closed. Her jaw tightened. I watched the fight in her face between lying and choosing a different lie. "It was Evan," she said finally, and then she rushed the next part like speed could make it smaller. "But it's not what you're thinking. You stay up the hair. You keep saying that. You keep telling me what I'm thinking. You haven't told me what happened." She shut her eyes for a second, and when she opened them, there were tears. Real ones, not performative, sliding down fast. She wiped them away with the heel of her hand, like she was angry at her own face. "He's going through a hard time," she said. "He needed someone. It was late. We were out. I didn't want to drive home. It was just easier to get a room." "A room," I repeated. "For 2 guests." "We didn't," she started, then stopped. Her shoulders sagged like she dropped something heavy. "We didn't have sex." That sentence landed weirdly. It was supposed to be a reassurance, but it sounded like a technicality. Like she'd found a line she could stand behind. I didn't even know what my face was doing. I felt my eyebrows pinch together, my mouth flatten. "So you got a hotel room with him?" I said slowly. "And you're telling me nothing happened?" "It wasn't like that," she insisted. Her voice rose, then cracked, then dropped again. "You don't understand what it's been like. You're always working. You're always tired. You come home, and you're here, but you're not here." There it was. The pivot. The attempt to turn my shock into a shared failure, so she could set the guilt down in the middle of the floor and ask me to pick up my half. I didn't yell. I didn't slam anything. I just looked at her and felt something inside me detach, like a magnet losing its pull. "I'm holding hotel receipts," I said quietly. "And you're doing this." She blinked hard. "I'm trying to explain." "No," I said. "You're trying to justify." Her lips pressed into that tight line I've seen when she's trying to stay in control. "So what? You're going to end it over paper?" she snapped, and then she immediately looked guilty, like she hadn't meant it to sound that cruel. "It's not paper," I said. My voice shook on the last word. "It's you. It's you being able to do this, and then come home and talk to me about napkin colors and venues like I'm your partner." She made a small sound that was half sob, half frustration. "I was going to tell you." "When?" I asked. "After the wedding? After we sign a mortgage?" After you decide whether you want to keep him or keep me." She took a step toward me. Her hands lifted like she could touch my arm and reset the moment. I stepped back without thinking. The distance between us felt like a physical thing. Her face crumpled when she saw me move away. "I love you," she said, and it came out desperate, like a rope thrown from a sinking boat. And I realized very clearly that the word love had become slippery, that I didn't trust it the way I did yesterday, that it could mean anything and nothing depending on who was saying it and who was listening. I looked down at the receipts again and saw the confirmation number, the dates, her name, the total. Boring numbers on a page that somehow rearranged my whole future. "I can't sleep next to you tonight," I said, and my voice was calm again, which scared me more than anger would have. "I can't do that with this in my head." Her eyes widened like I'd slapped her. "This is our home." "I know," I said, "which is why you should pack a bag." She stared at me for a long second, like she was waiting for me to back down, to soften, to apologize for making the consequence real. When I didn't, she turned and walked toward the bedroom. I heard drawers open. I heard a zipper. The sounds felt too loud in the quiet. I stayed in the kitchen. My hands were still shaking, but now it was from delayed adrenaline. I put the receipts down next to the sink like they were contaminated. I watched the clock above the microwave tick forward like time was still doing its job, even though my life had stopped. When she came back out, her eyes were swollen. Hair Messier now. She had a backpack on like she was going to an airport. She paused in the doorway and looked at me like she wanted me to stop her. "I didn't plan to hurt you," she whispered. I didn't answer, not because I wanted to punish her and not because I didn't feel anything. I just didn't know what words belonged to me anymore. She stood there for another beat, then left. The front door clicked shut, and the house became huge and still. I wish I could tell you I immediately did something brave and clean like call off the wedding or pack my own bag and leave. I didn't. I stood there for a long time staring at our kitchen counter. The same counter where we'd ice cupcakes for my niece's birthday. The same counter where she'd pressed her engagement ring into a blob of dough because she didn't want it to get sticky. Then I picked up the hotel receipts again, not because I needed to read them, but because I couldn't stop myself from checking the dates like they might rearrange if I looked long enough. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching. And if you've ever found something small that cracked your whole life open, receipts, messages, a detail you weren't supposed to see, feel free to share your story in the comments.